You are welcome into the second hour of the programme. Now, I love a person with a conscience, I have to say. Have a listen to this. I was on a train from Dublin to Waterford on Tuesday when I evicted a student from my reserved seat. The guy was lovely about it and let an old fossil like me sit down. Later he returned with the ticket inspector looking for his ticket. He didn't find it and I couldn't help. Nobody could. The ticket inspector was nice but firm. They went away. I don't know if they put the student off the train. The fine, as I understand it, for evading a fare is €120. And sure, you would have little sympathy for the chancer, wouldn't you? I mean, don't do the crime if you can't pay for the fine, right? And all that. But later, I found myself staring at my hand, wondering why it was clutching a student ticket. I graduated this year. I too travel the length and breadth of the country on discounted student rail cards. I know the fine for not having a ticket is €120 and I have that poor lad's ticket. I'm sure there are better things he could spend that money on at Christmas. This guy was brown-skinned with an East Coast accent and he was on the 1:15 p.m. train out of Dublin. Can we find him? Well, did anyone come home or do you know anyone who said, I was sitting in a chair and then this bloke came along and evicted me from the chair and then I lost my bloody student ticket and I had just an awful day? If that story is ringing true with any of you, this guy wants to get in touch with you because he does have a conscience. So if you know anyone or you think you can help this guy track down this student, then see if you can get in touch. Now, the country's largest hospital has been offering its staff cash prizes of up to €500 as part of a competition to help get discharged patients to vacate their beds early in the day. This is St James's Hospital in Dublin we're talking about. It's a 4-month trial period to try this out, aimed at improving patient flow and freeing up beds of people who are leaving the facility. It's come in for some criticism, particularly the posters, which seem to be a little bit naff, win and, the battle is on, don't miss out and all of that. But would it work here? And is it just a system that seems to be bizarre? Darren Skelton is of the Waterford News and Star is on the line now. Good morning, Darren.
Good morning, Maria. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
I'm grand.
As you say yourself, you could put health on the front page of the paper and we could do a programme on health every day for the rest of our lives probably, and we still wouldn't get to the bottom of it. But first of all, before I come on to the systems maybe that are in place that would mean that we don't need competitions and we don't need to give people €500 to get people out of their beds, what do you think of this as a sort of an incentivising system, first of all?
Well, look, Maria, it would be the same as my editor in here having a poster on the wall saying, incentivising the best stories in the front page. You're essentially just offering people more money to do what they're supposed to be doing in the first place, And I can't get on board that at all, even if it does cause better outcomes for patients. It's absolutely ridiculous because I don't want to get in. I don't want to get into the gritty, elements of it. But I mean, at the end of the day, where's this money coming from?
And where are the people supposed to go? Like nobody's sitting in a hospital bed for the good of their health. They're dying to get home. As we'll probably
talk about in a second. I mean, they're going to be going home anyway. They're just this process is just trying to get there faster. And I suppose. I don't know. I can't get behind it. It's like anybody, any job. We could all do with a few more extra bob to incentivise us, but that's not the real world,
I think if I was a staff member, I'd be thinking, great, I could get £500 here. But on the other hand, I'd be thinking, do they think I'm just sitting looking at people lounging around in their beds for the good of my health? Like I have a job to do, and the fact that I have another bed makes my job easier.
Exactly. There's already a problem in hospital at the moment of patients, being basically released, without proper actual examination of what's wrong with them, without proper explanations of their treatment once they go home, without proper explanations to their family of how they're supposed to treat them when they go home. So if suddenly there's a race against the clock now to get a few bob, I can imagine those things are going to happen a lot more now, we had a system before Christmas whereby someone from the emergency department of Waterford was sent home and then died 3 years later. So, this is not going to last too long.
And it seems to be, and I know that you're very au fait with the situation in University Hospital Waterford, but it seems to be a system that's almost kicking itself in the foot, because it doesn't seem to be as efficient as maybe it could be.
Well, when I look at something like a hospital, I think people think about a hospital in terms of saving lives, and it's the most crucial place, the most crucial and important job anybody can have working in a hospital, whether you're a nurse or you're a doctor or even a porter, because, and I don't mean, anybody works out there. All of them have exceptionally important jobs. And, I wouldn't particularly like to work in a job where if I make a mistake, somebody could die. Do you know what I mean? But I think what we need to understand is that at the end of the day, they're not superhumans. They're not robots. They're not machines. They're the same human beings who make mistakes in the hospital as are the same human beings who make mistakes in insurance, in radio stations, in newspapers. Mistakes happen on a regular basis, no matter where you are. So I suppose in that way, when I think about hospitals and the way procedures happen in hospitals, I feel as if sometimes they get put under extreme and scrutinized pressure, especially from the likes of me and you. Generally speaking, when we write a story about nurses and doctors, we try to write it in such a way as if the system needs to change. Yeah. We need more investment. We need more staff. But sometimes along the way, we have situations whereby we have doctors and nurses who possibly, how would I put this, the actual procedures that they're getting involved with themselves needs to change. And I'll give you a little example. When a patient's into a hospital, maybe they're in the ED, the emergency department, maybe 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, okay, and they're waiting on a bed. Now that bed could be made available at around 6 p.m. that evening, okay? But between 6 and 8, there is a change of shift that happens. So the day shift finish up and they pass on all of the nurse information to the night shift, okay? Now during that process, they don't take any new patients onto the ward. So therefore, if you're waiting down the emergency department, you have no hope of getting a bed during that time, because it'll just mean that they have to stay longer to actually process your information as well. Okay? Yeah. So that's something that could do with changing, and that would be a management decision. And all you have to do there is not have all the nurses starting at the same time and finishing at the same time. That to me would solve that problem. Okay, but that's not how it currently happens. All of the day shift and particular ward will finish at the same time, and then they'll pass over to the night shift to come in. The night shift have to come in, and then you could be looking at another few hours before. But when a bed is changed, the bed has to be stripped down, cleaned, and the trolleys have to be cleaned. You need 2 porters and 1 nurse to move every patient from the emergency department up into a ward. So there's a huge amount of processes that have to happen before the person who's been waiting in the emergency department can finally get put onto a bed. During the daytime, I think there's 5 to 6 bed managers working in the hospital, around 10 porters. At night time, there's 2 porters, and then 1 superintendent who oversees the entire bed management system. And yet, a lot of patients and people who have been patients who are listening to this will probably remember times when themselves or a family member were moved up to the ward at 2 and 3 in the morning. I know my own father a few weeks ago was in the emergency department all day long and didn't get a bed in a ward till 3 o'clock that morning. So to me, I think what's needed there is an audit of the actual practice, because it doesn't make sense that there's so much traffic happening in the middle of the night when most of the staff are working in the middle of the day. Now, the cynics among us, I will put my hand up to being one of them, will say that with the trolley management, the trolley figures that we look at every day on the INMO website, those are processed, those are handed over at 8 a.m. every morning. Now, they might say there are 13 people waiting on a bed, but there's every opportunity, every chance that 3 or 4 people were moved just an hour before that 8 a.m. So they're obviously trying to manage the figures, but I just do think that it's an audit of that whole system that's probably needed, because there's practices in there that are ongoing and can easily be changed. Now, obviously, the bigger problem is that we need more nurses, we need more doctors, we need more. But working what we have, maybe it makes more sense to scatter, to not have them all coming on and off at the same time,
Yeah, and it's easy for us. Like, we're not medical people. We don't know half of maybe the paperwork that has to go on and all of this. And we don't know, we don't have to put Darren Skelton or Maria McCann on a form so that if anything bad happens, it comes back on us. We don't have those things. We're just looking at it from the outside. And sometimes I think that's a good thing, though, if you are looking at a system that's in operation with fresh eyes. And you can see, as you said, like, why are you doing it at that time? Like, why not do it at a different time?
Yeah, well, but it's like everything else, and I'm going to give a strange comparison here. We would never have known about that €2 million printer that was in the office if it wasn't for somebody who was working within that building and thought, this is not right, I'm going to tell a journalist. So, I don't, and you don't, and Damien and any other journalists out there, we when researching these stories, we actually speak to the people who are on the floor, who are dealing with this every single day, whether it be a nurse, a porter, a doctor. They speak to us off the record because there isn't a signs up in the hospital warning staff against speaking to the media. So they speak to us on threat of their own job, just in the hope that things will get better, that things will change. Because, as we mentioned in the paper this week, when you have a situation whereby, I'm not too sure if everyone knows about this, but when a paramedic in an ambulance brings a patient to a hospital, they have to wait with that patient until it's seen by a doctor and actually gets a bed in the emergency department. Now that, with all of these other delays going on, creates a situation whereby you have an ambulance waiting at a emergency department for 2 and 3 hours, and people are wondering why, when they ring an ambulance outside on the street in the city centre, they have to wait an hour and a half before it comes. And oftentimes it has to come from New Ross, or it comes from, Tipperary or something.
Yeah.
And so all of these problems have knock-on effects. And I just think that maybe I've always said that the hospital needs to be looked at more like a business. So instead of actually, we have a situation in place where nurses and stuff are promoted and become managers, and that, you think that makes sense because, they know what they're doing, but they're not looking at it, in my opinion, from the business perspective. They're not looking at a perspective of making things happen in a faster way. I mean, this is why, let's call a spade. Whitfield, at the end of the day, is a private company. It's a business, The health of his patients is their business, and it runs very, very efficiently. Now, they don't have the level of traffic, they don't have the level of patients coming in that Waterford has to deal with. And I don't want anybody to think that I'm criticizing a nurse or a doctor in the UHW, because they actually do phenomenal work. But because of the pressure that's on them in terms of understaffing and underfunding, as you said, we have situations on the front page of the paper this week where we are basically telling people that UHW is the most underfunded hospital in the country, of that size. If people haven't seen the paper, all I'd like to say is that Limerick has 562 beds. Okay, they're a comparative hospital because their catchment area is 400,000. We're 500,000, but officially their catchment area is 400,000. We have 545 beds, okay? Now, they have 2,822 staff members compared to our 1,944. For them to have approximately 800 more staff members and catering to 100,000 less people with around the same number of beds, you can understand why people are kind of going, Waterford really is getting shat on, there's no other way of looking at it, the whole South East. And you kind of go, what's the explanation for that? And I've yet to get a decent explanation for that. So
that's it. You can't get an explanation for it. Nobody can explain why.
Yeah, this is it. They'll give you a lot of... I've never found the HSE or the South West Hospital Group to be that good at passing on information. Communication of any standard from them is quite poor. So we're never really going to get to the bottom of this. We're never going to see a restructure of the HSE in our lifetime, I believe. So what we're doing is we'll keep on just trying to paper over the cracks. And it just means that when you go to the hospital tomorrow morning for whatever reason, that your staff out there that you're faced with, they're dealing with so many more patients and staff in other hospitals, and yet they do it and they go in every day and do the same thing, and it's oftentimes their partners who actually speak publicly and say, look, I'm getting tired of my wife who's a nurse or a doctor, or my husband coming home absolutely exhausted, mentally, emotionally drained about what they experienced during that day. We said at the start, Maria, we could do a story about the hospital front page every single week, but there's a kind of a fatigue out there that people are just used to reading about it, and until it actually affects them, until they're the ones sitting on the trolley, they're not usually pressed to do anything about it,
And it's we have to reiterate, I think you've said it already, I'm going to say it again, none of these discussions are ever having a go at the people who work in the system, who are doing their dead level best under very trying circumstances. And I'd say people who work in that system are the kind who would take their work home with them. They'd remember maybe the old person that they didn't get to, or I'm sure the people in Limerick Hospital still think of that poor woman, 90 years of age, with a pain in her back, like trying to sleep forward on a cushion. And you couldn't but take that home with you and it stay with you until you have to go in again and face the same thing, maybe a small child or somebody who just can't get treatment at all. It must be very, very difficult.
Exactly, but think about it. Think about the amount of people that you've spoken to on the radio show. Have you ever had a nurse come on?
No. I've had a few speak to me, off the record.
But this is the thing, they're not allowed to speak. So what I'm just saying, I wonder would things change if an actual nurse was to go on the radio and just basically spend 10 minutes describing the day they had.
That's a big ask, though, isn't it?
Well, they'd be too afraid to do it. Any nurse listens to me, they honest to God, I swear, sometimes I feel like I may as well be in the car park at City Square talking to Deep Throat, because they're so frightened. They're paranoid because they don't want other people on the ward thinking that they are the ones who spoke, and they don't want management, because there are practices that are behind closed doors, and I've spoken to nurses who have stood up to these practices and have ended up getting shifted off and are now working in other hospitals around the country. So, I think people need to understand that behind closed doors there's policies happening in that hospital that need to change. We can't single out anybody because so often they're unnamed people in offices and corridors that we'll never even set foot on,
And I'm sure a lot of them would be just as happy to see a change in system. It just seems to be so vast, Darren, the problem of the system that's in place. And I'm sure it's not just Waterford, it's all around the country, of that you wouldn't even know where to go to fix it. You can't shut the thing down while you reassess and reevaluate, and you have to keep going, you have to keep bringing people in, you have to keep having people on trolleys, because that's what you do. You can't just put a stop to everything until you sort out the problem and come up with a better way. They're literally lurching from crisis to crisis.
They are, but I wonder how much they're actually listening to the people on the ground. How much they're listening to. I mean, if somebody who's working in the hospital comes to me and says, look, Darren, I'm working there the last 20 years, and surely to God it makes sense that if we have this issue where beds are taking an age to be handed over, why not have the nurses starting at different times? Now, maybe somebody from the agency would say, well, look, there's a significant reason why that's the case, where they all start at the same time, but we can't really get around that. But then, okay, let's look up another reason then. Well, I want to know why a bed that's coming free at 6 o'clock is not being given to a patient until 7 or 8 hours later. And if the fact that St. James's are putting in financial incentives to get this whole process happening faster, then to me it just I don't know, I can't get my head around it. I think that the summer has to step in and say, well, look, lads, a better system is what's needed here, not a more kind of active kind of nurse situation,
Okay, Darren, we'll leave it there. Thanks for talking to me.
Thanks, Maria.
See you. Bye-bye. That's Darren Skelton there of the Waterford News and Star. I'm always saying that, where do you even start to try to sort out a problem like this? But would you like the idea of, the staff in the hospital getting €500 incentive to move you out of your bed as sufficiently as possible, which would be all jolly fine if there was somewhere for you to go? 083 333 975 051 846 123. You are welcome back to the programme. It's Maria in for Damien. He'll be back with you in the morning. And we've plenty more to talk about before we finish up, including children playing. And I'm also going to be talking to Gerald Hurley, CEO of Waterford Chamber. I'll tell you who won the voucher shortly. But the next thing we're talking about is things like Netflix and all those streaming sites. The battle for your eyeballs is how it's very succinctly put by my next guest, who's Conor McMahon, a business reporter with the Sunday Times. You're very welcome to the programme, Conor.
Thank you very much.
There was really only Netflix, but now the battle is on to try and get us. There's plenty of key players going to be coming on stream, and indeed on stream already.
Yeah, that's right. So, even looking into the early part of 2020, we're going to be seeing the likes of Disney Plus arriving in Ireland. We already have now Apple Plus, Apple TV Plus, you may remember that was launched a couple of weeks ago, I believe, at this stage. And then, we've got the likes of Amazon's Prime service, HBO Max in the States, which, to be quite honest, I think looking at the market, HBO Max, they seem to be the biggest threat, I suppose, to Netflix. They're going for the same model of trying to get your eyeballs, but also trying to bring you to their own original content. And as a consumer, it's a great time if you're big into your streaming services. And the more access to content you have, the better. And it looks as though, as well, while they're competing for your eyeballs, they're also going to be trying to compete for your wallets too. So certainly in the next couple of months, there'll be plenty of services available, far cheaper than they probably should be, because the cost of producing these programs is absolutely astronomical. So, it's a very interesting time for the streaming industry.
Is it a bit of a gamble, though, because there's only so much people can be willing to shell out every month just to watch programs?
I think if you've got the deep pockets, and you're probably willing to take the gamble, but you're dead right. There's only so much people are willing to subscribe to. So I think the figure is something like between 3 and 5 services. There was a survey of American consumers, and that was how much they were willing to subscribe to. But also there's the whole issue around time as well. So we're talking hundreds of hours worth of material. I don't know about you, but I know with my own Netflix subscription, I'm kind of often find myself watching the same episodes of Friends as a kind of distraction technique. Don't know if I'm sitting down and consuming everything that's available on it. So it's as I say, these companies that are involved, like even just to take Amazon, the main reason they're doing it is a kind of, I guess you could call it an ancillary. So their main business is to sell you books and whatnot, and as part of your subscription to their delivery service, you're also going to be getting this access to some TV content as well, and it's sort of seen as a bonus. So I'm sure the bigger players, as I say, HBO, the ones that are really going for Netflix, they're the ones that are going to be really laying out the money on the table.
And as you say, the cost of producing these things is astronomical. If I'm not particularly a business brain, but I'd wonder at the boardrooms of these places who's going, I think it's a really good idea if we spend loads of money to make programs, and then we can charge people and hope that they'll pay up.
Yeah, even just looking at Netflix alone, so this is just one service. I think it was for the last 12 months. So certainly 2018, they spent around $12 billion. And the view is that that's just not sustainable, to continue spending billions upon billions of dollars on content. It's just, if you're a production company, I guess the ball is in your court. You're able to command these, very high fees to be able to stream your programming. The reason being is they're trying to get people hooked into that kind of, binging binges that Netflix kind of revolutionized, where they just release, absolute reams of content and have the series kind of go up all at the same time. So it's obviously very, very expensive, but I'd imagine the price will come down as the market sort of eases out.
And am I correct in saying, and I may not be, not for the first time, but that in some ways this could impact on Netflix more than just people deciding maybe not to sign up with them, but some of the content that they've previously had now wouldn't be available to them?
Yeah, we've seen that already. I mentioned Friends a moment ago, and unfortunately in the next year I won't be able to access it through Netflix. The reason being HBO had engaged in a bidding war. I can't remember what the price was, but it was very expensive for a series that hadn't been broadcast for whatever it is, 10, 15 years. There's certainly bidding wars going on for specific programming. Certainly HBO went for the jugular. They took some of the very popular programs that were on Netflix. Then again, Netflix is also engaging in the same war where they're trying to get other series. Like I think they've they're pitching The Office and Seinfeld again, programs that have already been broadcast. They're sort of filling the vacancy of those older series.
Okay, we leave it there, Conor. Thanks for talking to me.
Thank you very much.
See you. Bye-bye. That's the Sunday Times business reporter Conor McMahon there. I think there just is a limit to how many things people are prepared to sign up for just to watch programmes. But let me have your thoughts. 083 3333 975 is how you get in touch with the programme, or 051 846 123. I'll be back after these. You are welcome back to the programme. I'm joined in studio now by Gerald Hurley, who's CEO of Waterford Chamber. And Waterford Chamber are the people who've been given, all you lovely people, a lovely €50 voucher every day this week because it's part of the idea of promoting shopping local and having this voucher, which is accepted in over 150 participating businesses, shops, hotels and restaurants in Waterford. That is a sizable amount. Gerald, you're very welcome for coming in.
Thanks very much for
coming in. It's I don't think you can kind of oversell how important it is for people to shop local, and the rippling effects that it can have on an area.
Oh, absolutely, and it's not only the shops; it's the whole all businesses in Waterford. And this year we're asking the whole community, the Waterford community, to make a concerted effort and support local businesses and shops, especially at Christmas. And that's why we're encouraging people, where possible, if they're considering gifts or businesses that are considering bonuses for their hard-working staff this Christmas, please consider the Waterford gift voucher, because that ensures that the business stays local. As you said, the voucher, it's accepted in over 160 shops now. So that's growing. And it's everything from arts and entertainment, bars, restaurants, cafes, fashion, health and beauty. So there's no shortage of places to actually avail of the vouchers and to use them in Waterford.
And I presume it's all year round, like people can buy them at any time.
Absolutely. But especially at this time of year, for businesses, either large businesses or small businesses that are considering rewarding their staff through bonuses, this is a very efficient way of doing it. And you usually have that towards the end of the year. So we're appealing to all businesses to please consider this year the Christmas gift voucher. It's a €500 bonus for their hard-working staff at a time of year that most people would welcome it.
And can businesses, do they sign up? Are they approached? How do they get involved?
Well, we have notified all the businesses down through the years, and we are getting support from businesses, but an awful lot more can be done. The businesses, all they have to do is contact Waterford Chamber. But even for family gifts, if people are wondering what do they give their aunt or uncle or indeed closer or just friends, giving the gift of choice is a simple solution. And these vouchers, then, the gift vouchers, they're available through the Book Centre and the Waterford Credit Union and indeed Waterford Chamber. So they can drop into us anytime and we'll be happy to deal with them.
And how are things in general doing in Waterford? It's been difficult for Waterford businesses. It's been well discussed and debated, certainly in recent weeks, in relation to the proposed rates increase. The weekends are busy. But an awful lot more can be done. We recently carried out a survey or research through Rycon, and they have now estimated that the retail leakage out of Waterford is in the region of 614 million. That's colossal. So you would imagine there's an awful lot more. The people in Waterford, the community of Waterford, could actually support local businesses and retail. There's a lot of money going out of Waterford, and certainly this time of year, we're appealing to people to make that effort and make a conscious decision to support local businesses and shops, and everyone will have a very, very good Christmas. Everyone cites the parking, I think, and I think it's a misconception about the parking, because I think you can park very reasonably all day in Waterford. And I think that's a message that's important to get out there, that people don't think that if you come in and you park for an hour, you're going to be charged like €4 or something. You're not.
No, absolutely not. I mean, on Fridays, there's, as you know, coming up to Christmas, there's free parking in the city as well. So that's of tremendous benefit. But parking in Waterford is less expensive than any of the other regional cities. Just to be clear on that, and there's plenty of it. We're myself and my team in the chamber. A lot of us drive into work, and we have certainly no problems parking any time of the day, or even indeed at weekends at any functions we have to attend during the weekend.
Now, the vouchers are available in denominations of €10, €25 and €50. And that's the answer to the question that I asked earlier on. And I have to say congratulations to you, Jennifer Maloney in Grantstown, because you now have €50 in your hot little hand that you can go and spend in over 160, it is, participating businesses, shops, hotels and restaurants in Waterford. And you enjoy every minute of that, and tell all your friends about it too. Gerald, thanks very much for coming in.
Congratulations, Jennifer. All right.
That's Gerald Hurley, CEO of Waterford Chamber there, and I'll be back with more for you after these. You are welcome back to the programme. Now have a listen to this text. Don't come from me. I didn't write it. Somebody sent it in. Certain people on social welfare think they are entitled to a free house. You always hear of couples on social welfare deciding to get pregnant to get a free house, and you always hear of lone parents who have their boyfriends living with them. I'm sick of going to work on shift and seeing the Monday Club drinking away their social welfare that my tax pays for while I struggle to pay my mortgage. Sometimes I think I would be better off on the dole. No mortgage, no medical bills, free everything. Does that person have a point? 083 3333 975 or 051 846 123. Now we're going to talk about children and playing, because apparently a study has shown that the fewer toys kids have, the more they play. And the more they maybe use their imaginations more. Laura Erskine is a parenting expert, and she's on the line now. You're very welcome back to the programme, Laura. How are you?
Thank you. Good, thank you. This is a big quandary for parents who are making lists with children for Santa at this time of year, and then of course trying to make room for some of the new toys that will be coming in just a few weeks' time.
I thought it was very interesting, about 20 years ago, this German project that took place in a kindergarten, where they took all the toys away from the kindergarten, and they left like nothing. They left like chairs there and, a few kind of necessities. But every toy was removed from the kindergarten, and they did it for 3 months to see how the kids got on. And initially they were like looking around the room going, what are we supposed to do? But very, very quickly they started to play with each other. They improvised with the chairs and put things over the chairs and made dens out of them, the same way like would have done years ago. And they really got into it and started using their imaginations, and it was no bother to them at all to have no toys.
It does. I know it is pretty amazing, and actually, you'll find that with children today, they are no different. Once you do remove that structure around play, in terms of telling children what to play next, in addition to the amount of toys that they have, their imagination is given the freedom to run wild. And it does. Children do adapt very quickly to that. It does take a day or two, or sometimes an hour or two if you're at home, for them to get used to the idea that they're not going to have toys to play with, and that they need to use their imagination. But if left alone, they will soon move out of the boredom and frustrated phase and into the creative, imaginative phase. And it's something that's so important for children, because at the end of the day, children play through, or they learn through play. And it's about them exploring their imagination. It nourishes self-confidence. It gives them the ability to promote creativity within their brain, problem-solving skills, and also improving their social skills, which for so many children today who are stuck in screens, they don't know how to engage with each other, other than their experience of what they have in school. And so this is really important for children, especially today more than ever, that they're given this opportunity to have imaginative, creative play. And I suppose as parents, as much as we need to declutter our playrooms to make it easier to control and keep the house tidier, it's actually really important for their emotional and social development.
I think there was an ad, I can't remember what the ad was on, but it was on TV, and it was two people like, characters in Game of Thrones or something on horses coming to the top of a hill and, saying we must attack that castle down there, and then the shot changes and it's two little kids with, sweet and brush for horses or something just lambing down the side of a hill. It's like their imagination is so important.
It really is, and the problem-solving element of actually, figuring out what will work for my horse. It'll be a broom. It's so important for their cognitive development, and actually to allow them to explore. What's really interesting is that when you have too many toys, children are just distracted and overwhelmed. They don't know what to play with. And there are two different modes to playing for children. There's the explore mode, which is where a child will first of all look at a toy and they'll think, gosh, what does this toy do? So it might be something where it lights up or it makes a noise or it moves. And then they move into play mode. Once they've figured out what it does, the children then go, okay, I'm in play mode now. What can I do with this toy to entertain me, to keep me busy? And that's where the creativity goes in. But when children have too many toys, they go into explore mode with all of their toys. So they're moving from one to the other going, what does this do? What does this do? They press the button, they move on to the next one. And they're not getting any satisfaction from that. They get the satisfaction and the dopamine rush from playing with the toys, and that actually allows them to have a better attention span as well, because they're not looking for that immediate return from the toy. They're actually engaging with it.
And if you wanted to try this yourself as a non-parent, I wouldn't have a clue where to start without maybe initiating screaming from my child. But do you just go, we're going to have a no toy day, or do you just quietly siphon some of the toys away and leave less there? Is it better to be honest and say, this is what we're going to do and you're going to play in imagination and yay? Or do you just go, half that stuff's gone, they won't even notice?
I think it's actually a little bit of both. You've hit the nail on the head there, Maria. And it really does depend on the age of the child too. So for children who have far too many toys and you know that they wouldn't notice if some disappeared, there's a great trick where you actually put them into a box, particularly ones that you think that they might have grown out of, and put them in a box and put them away out of sight. And very often they won't go looking for them. They won't notice that they're gone, and they'll get much more enjoyment out of the toys that are left because it's fewer to distract and overwhelm them, and they'll engage much more with them. And then you can actually swap those toys around. So you can take that box down from the attic, and it's like getting a whole new set of toys, and put the other ones away and allow them to enjoy those and play with them properly. And then for those toys that you think, yes, they've definitely grown out of them, rather than creating the upset, just siphon those off the box that had been in the attic before you bring down the new toys, the new old toys again. It's definitely better for children to have less than more. They won't be overwhelmed. They'll engage properly with their toys, and then it allows the freedom for imaginative play. I do think it would probably be too much to remove all toys, like that German study, and say, okay, go for it. I think children will find the ability to, once they get a little bit bored, they will start to get creative, particularly when they're not on their own and they've other people that they can play with. I know my own children who are 10 and 8 and 10 months. Now, the 10-month-year-old, she's still figuring out play. But the 10-year-old and the 8-year-old, when I ban the screens, when their half an hour of screen time is up and the Wi-Fi router goes off and they are forced to play, they start reading again. They start creating forts. They play hide and seek. They do all sorts. And the shrieks and the giggles of laughter that I hear upstairs when they're playing like that is very, very different to what I would hear when they're actually engaging with toys as such. They much prefer each other's company, and it's something that perhaps you might need to show your children a little bit to get them started, but then you need to step away and let their imaginations go wild.
Okie dokie. Thanks very much, Laura. Thanks for talking to me.
Thank you.
See you. Bye-bye. That's parenting expert Laura Erskine there, and lots of reaction coming into what we've been talking about. I want to bring some of those to you just before I finish up. I read a text there saying somebody's fed up with everyone on social welfare getting everything for free, blah, blah, blah. This person works on shifts and they're fed up and they think they'll be better off on the dole. They won't have a mortgage to pay. They just go on a housing list. Well, there's an awful lot of homeless people on a housing list, so maybe maybe that's not the right way to go. But I take your point in what you're saying. Somebody saying, we're in response to that text, read the social welfare. Why blame those people for what's wrong with the country? The people on social welfare didn't break this country. Those in the suits with well-paid jobs broke the country. P.S. No one made you buy your house, so don't blame those on social welfare. That's from Michael, who says, P.S. I also work shifts. On the other hand, somebody else says, fully agree with the text from that person who's angry about people on the dole getting free houses. There should be no freebies. Nothing for free is ever appreciated. You should have to pay for everything. Same rules should apply to all. See how many would be lying at home then. Well, I've always said, it should be done by the amount of income that's going into a house, from no matter where that income is coming from. If there's a certain threshold of income in the house, whether it's coming from social welfare or whether it's coming from a job, then that should determine what you pay for and what you don't pay for, because money is money at the end of the day. Another texter says, Maria, why do people have to bring in single mothers into every debate about money? I would like to know where they get the notion that single mothers get a free house, or that they become pregnant just to receive said free house. As a single mother myself, I find these kind of comments not only degrading but also small-minded and idiotic. How come the separated wives payment, which the women in the early 80s and 90s received, and I know for a fact that these women still receive this for life until they reach pension age, and then it stops? How come the very loud moaners of taxpayers, and I'd like to add, I'm also one of them, never mention this scenario? How do we defer to them? How do we differ from them? Sorry, I'll tell you. I'm so angry and annoyed that single mothers, which I might add there are plenty of single fathers too, but always have to demonise the single mothers. That is the text that has come in on the parking situation. Somebody says, first of all, there's no free parking on the quay, and also why aren't there lights on in the evenings along the bridge? Why would people shop in Waterford when there's no atmosphere, says Vinny in the city? Well, I think there is. I think it looks lovely at night. And I was driving in the other morning in the dark, and I was looking at it and thinking, the key is just ripe to be made more Christmassy. And I do take your point there, Vinny, but I'm just thinking, so it must cost a fortune. I presume those lights don't come free in any way, shape or form. But maybe when those trees that everybody gives out about, when they get a bit bigger, they'll be able to put lights on them like they've done in New Ross, which is very festive and has trees like that. Maybe that could be something they could look for in the future. And final one says, whoever demonises people on the dole should take a good look at the tax structures for the wealthy and wealthy businesses. Demonising people on the dole is pathetic. But she is getting quite a lot of support from people that I just don't have a chance to read out at the moment because the show is over. But I leave you with this one. The secret is easy. Become an OAP. Double bubble bonus this Friday. You have been listening to Deise Today. The programme is produced by Julie Smith. Damien's going to be back with you tomorrow. And you don't need to go anywhere. Just keep it right here on WLR because Jeff Harris is on the way and he has some great music for you on the lunchbox as always. Thanks for all your texts and comments. I really do appreciate them. And for all your participation in the programme today. And you enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.